It went on some people, there was some people's properties that were imposed upon, but if you look at these statutes that I'm gonna give you, you actually could, if you had damage to your property, come back and see the board. If you'll just give me a couple of minutes, I would like to for a minute.
Where are we on the time?
3 minutes.
You're allowed 3 minutes.
I'll just give you what they are, and then
She's got
you
about
can look them.
1.5 minutes.
Okay.
You can look them up. Wisconsin statute 66-28, 82-18. This is with regard to the highways and maintenance of them. 86-03. This is regard to trees, tree removal. Who's responsible? It is actually supposed to be presented to the homeowner first. The town has overall right if you choose not to remove them, they can actually impose the fee on the resident, but you're supposed to be given first right to refuse that. Statute 66-028, as I cited before. 86-03, this is again regarding the property owner's responsibility versus the town's responsibility. And I believe that's it. That's what it's saying.
That's it for our public comments. Were there any questions directly related to the budget and numbers on the budget?
Hi, Stacy Masson, South Burr Drive. So what I'm understanding is regardless of how we vote today, you go back to that other one. The debts. I mean, yeah, or expenses. Well, the one that had like spent $300 and some thousand over the budget.
Not the detail. There you go.
Yeah. So if we voted, no matter, even if we vote today, no matter what our voice says, you were still able to spend $242,000 more than what we approved. Then you were able to expend, you know, it shows right there, up to almost $400,000 more than what we voted, which blows my mind how you think it's okay to do that. Those statutes, I brought that to their attention summer of 24. We shouldn't have been paying for all that stuff. And if you look at invoices, there's no addresses, there's no detail on the invoices, where the money was spent, who was getting it done. I mean, it's crazy, actually. I wouldn't spend that money. And then, so am I understanding that correctly? No matter how we vote tonight, you can spend up to you can spend as much money as you want as long as you get our line of credit?
No.
No? So how come you can spend $378,000 above budget?
That's debt service.
Right.
So the town board authorized debt service.
Right.
Which then it's a revenue stream in 1 year. It's also an expense in 1 year.
Right.
And then we pay it, we pay it back over time.
But it's money that the town didn't have, that you spent above the budget.
Correct.
Okay, that's my point.
Okay.
So regardless of how you vote, you have the ability to spend what you want to spend.
No, that's not true. We answered to the voter. Okay.
Well, that's what I don't understand. So you spent $400,000 above the levy. You took a line of credit, you didn't have the money.
As we've always stated, do we want to pay as we go, tax levy increases, or do we want to take on debt service to be able to fund the town expenses that we have? Would you rather we just shut down the town and not spend money?
I'd rather spend money that we have.
So
rather than collect
30 seconds left,
Then
Rob.
approve the tax levy.
No. But how did you get that $400,000 above?
So it's not, if you look at this, the budget line, wrong clicker. This budget, we included $378,855 in the budget that was presented last year and adopted by the people that were here.
Right, you put it in the budget, but it was a line of credit. It wasn't real cash. It wasn't available money, right?
Well, debt service is never available money, or it wouldn't be debt service.
Right, that's what I don't understand, is why do we keep on taking debt?
Oh, okay, so in the case where part of that debt service, $105,000 of it, was debt issued for Tamarack Road, okay? It was a $185,000 project, okay? We applied for a grant, and we had to pay a portion of that project through the grant. So that project, instead of being 105,000, would have been 215. So we tried to issue debt service for something that had meaningful results in return for the town, rather than saying 105 in debt service. We could have said 215 up front. Again, pay as we go or issue debt service. So the 105 was debt service because, back to the other slide near the top, at the end of 2023, the town legitimately had $12,000 to its name. We don't have reserves to apply to capital projects, period. We don't. $100 and some thousand was taken out of the LGIP at the end of 2022, and we don't have reserves. So we don't have a savings account, other than right now, projected $84,000 to fund anything without debt service. We would instead let those roads deteriorate until one of two things. Somebody else issues debt service, or we save up enough money to pay for repaving a road. It's the fundamentals of cash flow as well as the budgeted amount.
What are the terms on your line of credit? Usually they're 12 months after you draw on it, it's due. Is that what you have?
It is a 4-year term from the beginning of it, which would have been 2023 August-ish.
So you're amortizing what you already borrowed over 4 years or 2 years?
Over the remainder of the term. So it was
over 4 years.
It was a $600,000 note with $150,000 paid back in principal. If we would have drawn $600 in August of 24, it would have been $150 principal plus the interest over a 4-year term. So by not pulling $600 right away and essentially pulling it for trees and partial road work in 2024, and then pulling the remainder of it in 2025, it's still $150 principal for the remaining 3 years now, and only the interest on the amount drawn in that 12-month window.
So that amount's going to stay with us for another 2-3 years. 27, 28.
It's roughly $165,000 on it's $165,000 between principal and interest, based on the amount that is currently drawn off of it.
Currently drawn.
Correct. Well, if the other 84 were drawn, it would be an
you've
additional.
got $200,000 left on your line of credit.
Say that again?
You've got $200,000 left on the line of credit?
No, you've got 84.
You took 84.
Correct. We talked about that a few minutes ago. It was 84.
The only thing I would add to that is, please, nobody think that this is a town of Palmyra issue only. The vast majority of communities, villages, towns, cities, have debt service.
The vast majority of communities either levy or borrow, not both.
I don't know that that's true.
That is not true.
That is not true. So all I'm trying to say is, please understand that debt service is a commonly used process with which communities fund their budget. So any implication that somehow that is not the case is patently false. So thank you. Sir.
St. Martin Zion Road. So I understand that the village or the town has got a couple requests for grants to do some on the other roads. So can you, one, explain where we are in that process? And two, if they get approved, are we on the hook like this last one was for any of it?
Sure. First and foremost, the process is that we submitted 2 in the end of October, by the end of October, Zion Road and Piper. Those two projects went to the review board that the county essentially establishes from potential towns that want to volunteer to be part of the committee. Chairman Sauter sat on that committee and was able to report back through the engineering firm that put the application together, as well as the county highway commissioner this morning when I chatted with him, that Zion Road was selected as the second ranked project out of the county towns that applied for this cycle. The other project is a $4.1 million project between, I believe it was Aslan, Lake Mills, and I forget the third community. So that then goes to the DOT for review. The DOT, right after we got done submitting Zion Road, sent out a brief that essentially said they are making a priority of projects that would have a state funding level of under $1.5 million. That does not include the joint project up by Lake Mills and Aslan, because it doesn't work out that way. So there's a potential that we would be awarded, as well as the fact that those other communities have recently, as of last year and the year before, one of the three of them already received discretionary funding through the DOT. So we've got an opportunity where Zion Road, Pine Drive North, the CI, would be funded by the state.
Completely, or
70-30. So the town would be the 30. Right now, it's a little over $1 million project total. So we'd be looking at approximately $300,000 at some point. With that being said, the town board, excuse me, has to approve the state municipal financial agreement. That's the next step. After they say, hey, Town of Palmyra, great project, we want to fund it for you. The initiation of the process is that we sign the SMFA with the DOT and essentially move that project forward. The project has 3 years to be constructed within the window of application. So we're talking 27, 28, 29. Okay? In 2029, 26, 7, 8, yes, 28, the note that Mr. Kemmer referred to falls down to about $38,000 in debt service total, right? So it was a big upfront for 4 years, and then it pretty much falls off. That $30,000 is the Tamarack Road project because it was a 5-year note. So if we time this out correctly, from a cash flow standpoint, and trying to not have all of these in every year's budget, when the debt service falls off, we would have room, so to speak, to get 70% grant funding for another road and somewhat keep the same level of debt service-ish, depending on interest rates and whatever. At the end of the day, the DOT will allow you to remove yourself from the process. There's a really good chance after that, if the SMFA is drafted and approved by the town, that you probably won't be high on the list for the next cycle. Because then they have to find another community that's willing to push their project up a construction year to catch the sunset of the grant program. So.
Yes,
Is Daybreak?
please stand up, name, address, thanks.
Lisa Eddy on Hooper Road. Is Daybreak gonna fund part of the repairs for Zion since they trashed it twice now?
That is a conversation that has yet to be established, let's say.
Okay.
But that is our intent. Yes.
I have a question, just a comment.
Well,
Kathy
sure.
Olson, W1360, State Road 106. I was told that Frank Sauter was taken to the hospital by Western Lakes. I'm concerned, all the money we pay the village for fire and EMS that we're paying for no service. He was taken to the fire hall and there was no one there. That's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true. Did Palmyra take him? No, Palmyra
Can you
didn't
speak
take him
up?
because they were
calling Western Lakes, so they were still staffed here.
Paul,
And
would you-
there
Paul,
were
would you
like
like to take that
7
one?
units.
Yeah, sorry, I did not hear. Can you repeat your question?
Quite honestly,
It's just, I'm concerned about the EMS service.
What was it? This isn't
I'm concerned about the EMS
Why,
service.
why Frank was taken by Western Lakes rather than us?
Sure, I'll speak to that real quick, just because it's an opportunity for education for everyone in the room. So, the Village of Palmyra Fire Rescue, who, you receive for fire and EMS services, we are an advanced AEMT level service, which means we can put an airway in you to breathe if we need to, which we did for him. We can do other services like shock hearts and provide defibrillation and provide certain amount of drugs. However, because we're not a paramedic level service, we're not able to give the full almost 40 different drugs that a paramedic can give. So if you or your family member is sick in the town of Palmyra, a lot of times we will respond within about 3 to 4 minutes is our average to your town, and we will then call a local paramedic level service, which in this case was Western Lakes. It's great that we're discussing this because I think you all should know that this is how this system works. Then we continue to work on you, your loved one, or neighbor, or friend, and provide that advanced AEMT level care. And Western Lakes or McWanago, whoever is closest, will come and they'll be able to provide that next level of care, which is paramedic care, which they did for many residents that live in the town and village day in and day out. Even today, 3 calls, 2 different times we call for paramedics. So that's a system that's been in place in your township and in the village since I've worked here 8.5 years, and we hope to continue it in the town and in the village.
And Paul, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm Paul Blount, Director of Public Safety, oversee police, fire, and EMS services. Here, just to be available in case there are points like this or questions like this. Good.
Appreciate it, Paul.
It's a great point, and it's great for everyone in the room to know how your fire and EMS services work, and it's also an opportunity for me to say, just a few years ago, we were almost a largely volunteer part-time fire and EMS service, which we've now transitioned for multiple reasons that I won't get into, to some full-time staff and then still some part-time and community staff. So there definitely has been a change in that as well.
Thank you. The other question was, does the board get reports about the staff? I have another question about, is the town board getting reports on how many qualified EMS workers there are and how many calls there are?
Yes, we do, but I would direct that question and then further discussion on to our monthly board meetings, not tonight,
Okay.
directly to the budget. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Sorry, Gene, you had a question.
Well, I just, is this a fair analogy of the difference between, increasing the levy and the borrowing that you've been doing? I guess how I look at it is the taxpayers are giving the board a raise when you increase the levy limit. You spend it till it is a raise. You're increasing the levy, it is permanent and fixed, like if I
The
were
town
to
is
give,
giving the
hold
town
on.
an increase,
The
not
employee-
us, not the board.
You're the spenders for the town, and it's not always at the direction of the will of the people. I'm
Just
trying to give
voted
an
on.
analogy, can you just answer if it's proper? So if I were to get a raise, and let's say it's 10%, that raise is fixed and permanent, it never goes away unless I get fired or unless something happens to the town. If we borrow though, we have the opportunity at least at an expense for a short period of time for that to end and have a reprieve. We do not have that when you have a levy increase, correct? Is it right?
You had a question.
I'm Carol Peters, I live
Disregard.
I'm Carol Peters, I live on.
He responded to you and he said, sure.
I said sure.
I didn't hear you.
Sure.
This is just a general question, and people's households are faced with this as well. Our costs are going up. How do we get more income aside from increasing people's property?
Actually, a very good question.
Could you repeat it?
How do you get more income aside from increasing our property taxes? Is there any discussion about how the town of Palmyra can increase our income?
Absolutely, we're all constantly talking about that.
So we could increase permit fees for things like road right-of-way permits or cats and dogs license. Because if you, FYI, if you have a cat or a dog in the town of Palmyra, you're supposed to register it every year. There's your Bob Barker moment for tonight. Okay? Amazingly, it seems as though we've got about 15% of the animal population we once did 4 years ago. So, we've got a limited stream of income. Property taxes are the main driver in the state of Wisconsin for communities to generate money to then put in to their expenses and their operations for the year. We could start doing paid parking. That's an option some communities use, paid parking, to back fund their general fund. We could develop more land, or we could not undevelop more land. The DNR bought 1,600 acres of land northwest of the center of the town, or if you want to call it the village. That now goes into a completely different taxing mechanism than your property taxes. The DNR owns approximately 25% of the acreage of this town, and they do not pay the same type of property taxes that you folks pay, or me, or Mr. Martins. Well, they don't pay. So, realistically, generating money in the state of Wisconsin for municipalities is largely related to property taxes. There are other funding mechanisms. We are a rural community. I don't think we're going to do paid parking. I don't know that building permits, if there's no other development, are going to offset the increases. And I don't know that the cat and dog licenses are going to make up the difference of what we're looking for, because we get about $400 a year out of that. So there are very limited streams of revenue that we have available to us.
And just to add a little bit more specifics, the 1,600 acres that the DNR bought was from a private end of the Kincaid farms out there, where we were at a certain level of tax income. Because the DNR bought it, we lost income there. So, you know, in addition to trying to grow, we have to also try not to lose. So that just added to their percent. 25, like you said, 25% of the town gets basically very little tax income. So, yes.
I guess I'm.
Name, address?
My name's Kimberly Kramer. I live on Tamarack Road. Thank you for fixing Tamarack Road because it was dangerous. A lot of kids would go under the ditch when they come to school, so I'm happy about that. What I'm really concerned about is, I understand people are upset about trees falling down and roads, but we need to have safe roads. We also need to have a fire department and a police department. I'm concerned about and I had a father that died of a heart attack. I had a nephew that went into seizures, and I want the best kind of help or emergency service that we can get. I'm a little concerned that we don't have paramedics in Palmyra. Years ago, when we grew up in this town, and I did, I'm not a new person in this community. We had a town and a village that worked together. And I'm not saying you two aren't doing it, because I know damn well that you are. We had a town and a village that worked together for years and years. They fought and fought tooth and nail. We used to have a fire department. We used to have a carnival that would bring in revenue. But then we got people that's lazy. They don't want to get involved. I'm probably one of them. I didn't want to get involved in the fire department or the police department. But I am damn concerned about not having, my mom would fall over with a heart attack, not having proper and waiting for it. And that has been a fight with the old board and I don't feel like you guys have, because when I call you, you both talk to me. And I feel like I'm playing catch up because I don't come to this, and quite frankly, I don't even care to come back. I'm about ready to put my house up for sale and say, Oscar Lisa, I'm gone. I would rather be in another community where there's more to offer. And another thing, we should be doing something this village, we get hurt, there's no way to expand. We don't have the freeway. The DNR keeps buying the land, like you said, Rob. And we have a lot of farmland. I want farmland and I want our farmers. I mean, do all of us want to have Bill Gates engineered, meat? You know, can we agree on that together instead of pissing and moaning and disagreeing all the time? And another thing, I'd like to say something about Frank Slaughter. I knew his dad and my dad were part-time police officers. Frank was raised by two really, really good parents. And he cared about this community. And people putting up signs in yards and bad-mouthing him and or fighting and saying the shit that they said about Frank is pathetic. So, you know what? I am about ready to just say, I'm out. I got a place up north I can move up north. I don't have this.
Thank you. Other questions on the budget? Yes, sir.
Ryan Schwichtenberg, Pine Drive. I have a question on the income side of the statement. I took the publicly posted PDF and I imported it into Excel. And then I used the Excel sum function to sum the numbers. Some of the numbers are vastly different than the numbers that are on the bottom line totals for the current sheet. I don't expect that you'll be able to answer it tonight. I can provide you the information. But for example, the 2025 total estimate column that you have, your total shows 1.459 million. The total that I came up with is 1.176 million, a difference of $283,000 and some change. I don't understand what the discrepancy is, but I would very much like to understand it. The good news is that on the expense side, that everything's within $1 or $2, which I assume to be cents rounding errors.
Yeah, on the expense, both sides actually, I got me worried about that now, to be honest with you.
I will also note that the good news is that the 2026 proposed matches, but the discrepancies going back can be quite large. The 2023 actual discrepancy is $242,800.
I'm sorry, just going through these numbers in my head and adding them up individually, I come up very close to that number. I'm not going to say I can add it right to the final number, but I come up with 1.4 million adding those up.
So what I can tell you is that there are decimal places in these that if you just look at the round whole number,
Right.
that 100% I can tell you.
Yeah, beat off $1 or $2
I
again.
mean, we'll certainly look at it.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I can give you what I have.
And I very much appreciate it. Anybody, anytime, please double check our numbers. Absolutely. But just a quick, I mean, just take the 370, say 400, and that's $1,076,000 right there. Plus some of the other larger numbers. Anyway, but thank you. We'll double check the numbers. Yes.
Alexis, Zion Road.
I'm sorry, can you speak louder?
Yeah, Alexis, Zion Road.
Alexis.
Schultz. Well, I appreciate and can respect like continuous improvements to make the community what it is. I was just curious if you have, as a board, have any future plans. You threw around a couple ideas, but it still went back to property tax in the end of how to better balance the budget for future years, so we're not back in this room next year having the exact same discussion that we had the previous year as well. Thank you.
And I apologize. Was there a question? Was that a statement?
No, it's a question. Like, what plans do you have so that way every year we're not just coming back to increase property taxes? Like, what other plans do you have so we're not?
What other revenue streams? So growth, what is that what the question is?
Revenue, better balancing the budget, cutting back on expenses, like anything.
Well, Josh went through the ways we can grow.
Yeah, and you went
There's
back
not
to
a lot.
property taxes.
What's that?
You named off a couple different revenue incomes, but in the end you went back to property taxes. So you didn't give any answers other than continuously increasing taxes.
Well, And Josh, you're gonna be better to explain this than me, but Jefferson County is an ag county.
Yes.
So there's this, the number one way we could grow is to develop more homes, businesses, things like that, but that takes land and I'm not entirely sure what the law is as far as farmers selling their land. I think there's a minimum number of acres that have to be, I don't know if somebody has that answer, please jump in here. But that would be the number one, and we would like to be able to do that, but one, it takes money to buy land and money then to develop that. And that's certainly an option for us. But the town of Palmyra is I'm not sure how much land is available to us, but it's certainly something we talk about. And we've talked about ways to grow and other things. Josh, anything you want? Josh, you want to add anything?
I'm sorry, I'm still on Brian's.
Let's move on. Let's move on.
If it makes any difference, I pulled it up on my phone and the sum, I mean, I've got equals sum in the column, so. It is a 25 amount, I don't.
He's got a copy for you.
I just did a hand calc on my phone and it came up at 1.1, not 1.4, so.
These are what we're supposed to go.
No, so here's my opinion, I guess, is that one of the things we're still trying to iron the last 4 details out is fire and EMS service. We understand, and we've made it very evident in meetings with the village of Palmyra, that the cost of service for fire and EMS, I mean, it's a huge piece. That's the wrong slide, right? So $375,000 out of $1 million budget is a pretty big chunk of that. We have concerns. We have voiced those to the village. We are hopeful that within the next week, almost to the day, that some of those concerns will come to fruition as far as looking at long-term solutions for fire and EMS coverage, which there's 2 big pieces of this budget, fire and EMS and public works, what I call public works. Plowing, mowing, salting, taking care of the roads. So like those 4 things are the other 45% of our budget. The rest of this, I get it, it's cash for everyone, myself included, but $400 on some of these line items is not going to swing the pendulum of, hey, we're good now. It's the big ticket things. It's fire and EMS and it's roads in general, maintenance all the way around.
40,000 in trees.
To answer your question, if an opportunity, excuse me, sir, Sean.
Hold on.
Sean? You haven't been recognized. We're addressing this young lady's comment. We will take every opportunity if they present it to us to grow. We consider everything. So, I mean, there was an opportunity on some land available 3 or 4 years ago that the village ended up buying that the town passed on. That could have been an opportunity. I'm not saying it would have turned into that, but there was an option there. As those come up, we will certainly look at those. Because we do recognize without growth, revenue growth, it's all on pretty much 90% on property taxes. So we do recognize that. And thank you for your question.
I'm Tony Isaacson, W1249 Island Road, Palmyra. I am concerned that you guys have a budget and then, like in the trees, and I know we keep talking about trees, but obviously, right, a lot of people have opinions about that, but the budget was $50,000, you went over at $73,000. That's not a little bit of money. That's $23,000. And so yeah, like a $400 change isn't gonna make a big difference, but $23,000 is a lot. So that's just an input. But I guess my question is to